Well, I'm Gary DeMar, and it's been a while since we've done some videos at American Vision, and we are ramping some of these up today. And I'm sorry if my voice is more nasally than usual. Being from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we typically talk with a nasal accent, but I am stuffed to the gills with all kinds of things. So anyway, we are going to talk a little bit about history today. One of the things that American Vision started as it was a history organization. The first thing we did was America's Christian history, 360 years later of history, beginning with Christopher Columbus and taking us all the way up to probably the 1980s. And we've continued in that process of dealing with America's Christian history. And I think one of the reasons America is in such a mess today is the fact that we really don't know much of our history. We don't know much about the early Christian foundation of America. We don't understand how some of these things have been lost, and we don't understand economic history. And by not understanding that history, we lose something of the perspective of the future in dealing with the content of that history today. And I have with me here in our studio J.T. Adams, who I've known actually for quite a while, had a history institute that he still runs, and he has branched out into a little different area, and I think it's a great area. Things are moving on the web in such rapid fashion, it's hard to keep up with all the technology and all of what's available today. And he's really on the forefront of dealing with the historical element of our history in a way that I think is going to be fascinating for older Americans like myself and intriguing for young people. He's combined the elements of history with some of the fashionable and some of the kind of the more hip way of teaching history. But I'm going to let him describe what he is doing. So, JT, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And I will do my best to sort of compensate for your Pittsburgh nasal with my slow Southern drawl.
Okay, we're in good company then.
Well, basically, what I'm trying to do is appeal to the 21st century, the way in which people sort of garner and obtain their information, and as you know, each you're probably like-minded in that we live sort of in the 19th and 18th centuries and beyond into the past. But in order to communicate those timeless principles, we have to sort of provide a platform on the new devices and the mobile devices in particular. So what I'm endeavoring to do is to actually create a mobile academy in which students and adults alike can actually, lifelong learners can sort of operate in an engaging manner, something that sort of appeals to the short attention span of today, but yet still gives the essence.
Everything's moving to the Kindles and the Nooks and so forth. People are using these devices like we picked up a newspaper or a book and so forth. So younger generation, this is the way things are moving very rapidly. So you're really out front of this from a Christian perspective, and the artwork of this is exquisite. Yes. Why don't you tell the story about the one you have up here now?
Well, actually, trying to make Martin Van Buren or Millard Fillmore interesting is a task because they historically they rank in the lower sort of quintile of presidents, but they in their sort of microcosmic way are interesting folks. And so what I do, if you recall, hearkening back to a bygone day, Paul Harvey, if you recall, he would tell a story. They'd have a commercial break, and then he'd come back and reveal who it is.
The rest of the story.
Exactly. Yeah. So the first app that we're doing will actually be in 2 volumes, and it's called Presidents Revealed, in which we actually have sort of a whodunit story. And at the end, they can push the reveal button to find out who the president is. And in most cases, people don't know who it is. And so that is sort of the methodology in which we present it. But the stories themselves have sort of an underlying message to them. And all the presidents, whether you agree with them politically or not, are treated fairly. And they have aspects of their character that are sterling, even if other aspects are not. So that's the way we approached it.
So these stories, these are true life stories.
Correct.
Probably most of us have never heard them.
Right.
The press typically deals with the big political things.
Right.
And rather than getting behind the person, behind the president to find out, because they grew up like the rest of us did. It's maybe some with means and some with not. So Give us one of the stories.
Well, I'm trying not to do that so that people buy the app, but I'll give one.
Just one.
The best example that I can think of it that sort of illustrates what I'm talking about is the story of a young lieutenant in World War II. He's caught in a typhoon, one of the largest on record, and the entire Third Fleet is in this massive typhoon in the Philippine Sea. And he's on an aircraft carrier, one of the smaller ones, but there are 1,500 men on board. And the boat is pitching at 70 degrees. The winds are 140 knots, or 140 miles an hour rather, 125 knots. And all the hangar deck catches on fire. All the planes and the fuel tanks and everything, the bombs are all in one spot, ready for launch. And so as the boat is moving back and forth, they crash into one another, the planes and the ammunition and such. And it's literally a burning inferno that is sort of taken hold of the ship. The captain has already been written off. The Third Fleet commander says, check off the Monterey, and so he's in a desperate sort of straits, if you will, and he asked for volunteers rather than ordering somebody to go down and put out the fires. He asked for a volunteer, and so this future president lieutenant grabs two other men, one of whom was a African American man who's unfortunately lost to history, and all night they battle this fire and this inferno, and they put out the flames while things are blowing up around them. It's just an extraordinary story, and so in the end you find out that it's Gerald Ford.
Who would expect this? A lot of you who are really young, and there are two cameramen and producers here, but Gerald Ford was really he played football too. He was a very good
Michigan,
athlete.
He was an All-American,
from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and but he was. Chevy Chase really portrayed him as a bumbling, kind of spastic president, but he wasn't. He was just one incident, I think, coming down off Air Force One,
he tripped and
something.
Right.
But he was quite the athlete, and there's this particular story, which most people probably do not know.
That's correct, yeah. And I mean, what's extraordinary about it is what he had to do actually to come down from his quarters. He actually gets swept. 25-foot wave comes over the bow and knocks him down. He goes over almost, and were it not for the end of the ship that's designed, it's a little rim there that's designed to keep tools from going off into the sea. Were it not for that, and he could catch it momentarily with his hand, he would have gone overboard. He still did, but he was able to fall into the catwalk. He goes back up there, and then that's when he goes down.
Okay, so what's the timetable on this? What are you looking at for making this particular app available?
We actually have the prototype. We got it today, and so we're going to catch all the typos that I invariably have, and a few other sort of the mechanical issues.
That's the bate of all publishers. So
I want to come across in my first one as at least somewhat erudite, but I'm trying to get it launched by the end of the month, and it will likely be sooner than that.
Okay.
And so.
Now, is there a website that they can go to for this?
Yes, it'll be available on the AmericanHistoryGuild.com, and there'll be a specific spot.
American History Guild, GUILD.com.
That's
right?
correct, right.
Okay. And so we'll look for that. Now, on our next session, we're going to come back and talk about the president's pets. Can we do that?
Sure,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Back. Check in, I guess, tomorrow, and we'll have a second installment of our interview with J.T. Adams.